And so today we're going to talk about transport. Oh my gosh, what happened there? I hit record and it went blank. That looks kind of weird. Anyway, I won't worry about that. In studio is Dennis Luebbe, he's Rice County's highway engineer. Dennis agreed to come on the show last minute, you know, because this is last minute Gordy. So thanks for coming on, Dennis.
Pleasure to be here, Gordy.
I shouldn't say last minute, but last hour anyway. But I appreciate that very much. We've been trying to get you on the airwaves for a couple of months now.
Yeah, it hasn't worked out, so well, this is fine. This is great.
Stabilization project.
Yeah, our County Road 11, you had wanted updates on that over the summer, and I think we put it back in service, I believe it was right around the 4th of July, back to two-way traffic on it. That's Roberts Lake Boulevard. That's that area where we had about 100 feet of the slope start to slide into the lake. So a unique project for us, but at this time it's up and running, and I think the design was solid, the construction went smoothly, and we're back in service.
You thought about doing that in some other areas, because we do have that sort of topography around?
I have not thought about it, and nor will I. That would be an emergency type action, and I don't think we have areas where we need to explore that right now. Hopefully, knock on wood, we won't have any failures like that in the future.
This was pretty spendy.
This was, I think that total contract cost was over about $300,000, and very spendy when you consider that amount of money was focused on about 200 feet of roadway, just because of the nature of the failure and the type of repair. You mentioned you saw some of that in your travels in Europe, and I'm sure it's probably very similar. They drove steel nails, if you want to call them that, about 25 feet into the bank, and then they connect all of those together on the face of that slope and holds it all in place.
Now these were humongous spikes, like the railroad spikes, only much more massive.
Ours, in our project, they were approximately about 1 inch in diameter.
No kidding.
Yeah, they weren't as large as you may think. Again, that was a different,
right,
all of these are specific projects engineered specifically for that application. So I think our steel rods might have been even less than 1 inch in diameter. They were drilled and placed inside a galvanized steel casing, which was driven into the slope, and then the anchor was slid inside that, and then it's grouted full, and the grout connects it all together, and that's how you form the friction to hold that.
So it's 1 inch in diameter. How long was it?
They were about 20 feet long, 25, 20 feet long, I think. And so that they're driven into solid material, you know, underneath the road quite a bit, and then grouted all together, and it acts as one huge compress, if you will, pushing that soil, holding that soil to the stable material. So
this was brought on by the rain, the flood.
That was that was that FEMA disaster we had last fall, or excuse me, last summer.
Yeah.
You know, with that heavy and prolonged rain, and got that behind us, and it's in service, and it looks sharp.
Hopefully we don't have to go through that again.
That's what I said. I'm not really looking for more soil stabilization projects. Those are probably something we would just prefer not to have to deal with.
Is that the first one you had to deal with?
That's yeah. In my entire career, that's the first project like that we had to deal with.
Again, that's on County Road 11.
Yep, just north of the resort there, on the high bank.
Period of time you had to close that road.
Well, we closed it initially while we evaluated what the damage was and the danger to the traveling public, of course, and then it was determined we could open up one lane. So we had a one-lane situation for probably close to a year, and a little concerned about that, but I think the residents out there and the traveling public always understand, and they were great at accepting that change in their world. You know, it's a big change when you're used to the convenience of two-way traffic, and then suddenly one day lights and signs go up and barricades go up, and you know, but I appreciate all the help the people had out there for the project, accepting it and letting us get in there.
Every time I hear John Perkins say his name, I think of Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom. I don't know why that is. Wasn't there like a Mr. Perkins that was in Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom?
I agree, yeah.
There was like Marlon
Perkins.
Yeah, that was Every time I hear his name, I think of mutual, sorry about that, I don't mean to share that with you. Northland Buildings for Quality Full Frame Construction, visit them on their website, they're one of our KDHL Agri Boosters. The website, easy to remember too, northlandbuildings.com. And Ag Power Enterprises, your John Deere dealer, they have locations in Owatonna, Hollandale, Belle Plaine, Osage, and Northwood, Iowa. Thought maybe I was getting a texted question. I did promote that on our website, kdhlradio.com today. Our phone number, if you'd like to text a question, and I will ask Mr. Luebbe the question if it's related to the Highway Department, is 507-838-5233. 507-838-5233. You can just text in your message, and then you don't have to worry about waiting on a phone or being on the air or anything like that. See? See how simple that is? Just text it, 507-838-5233. Well, Dennis, one of the reasons I wanted to have you on was, of course, the first segment when we talked about the slope stabilization, but also the future of our transportation here in Rice County. One of the questions I posed on our website was, we have a lot of miles of paved roads here in Rice County.
Rice County alone is responsible for 350 miles of pavement. And then the state system on top of that, and then all the city streets, and even some townships have paved roads. So I think if you look at the total numbers, if my memory serves me, there's over 1,000 miles of public streets and highways in the borders of Rice County.
That's
the big system.
Yeah, here in Rice County.
Yep.
And we probably have, I don't know what percentage of miles are paved versus gravel.
On the county system, I think it's somewhere, well, we have 80 miles of gravel road and 350 miles of paved road. So I don't know what that percentage is off the top of my head.
But it's a significant percentage. The question I posed on our website is, can we continue to afford that? I'm sure it's something that the county commissioners deal with every year they do their budgeting process.
Absolutely, Gordy, and it is an ongoing discussion and evaluation and trade-off. You know, when you're looking at the size of any system, you know, with limited resources and the constraints we're all under, whether it's the city, the township, the county, the state, and even the feds, you know, we're all having to look at, can we sustain the investments we've made? If we can't, we have to find out a solution that works for us all. It's a challenge.
Yeah. But you just do what they, you know, what their wishes are. That's your capacity.
Well, my role as a county engineer is to develop a plan and present it to the county board and the administration and justify the plan based upon the priorities the county board has set. And I think we do that pretty well, and we have an annual opportunity to review our capital improvement plan, and we work through those issues, and we look at not only what the immediate needs are, but you have to look further down the road and what are we preparing for as development comes down from the cities. You know, roads have a limited life cycle, so we have to be planning ahead on what is the future reconstruction cost going to be of some of these systems we have in place.
Yeah, but it's not going to go down.
No, I don't think so. Unfortunately, even though I know the price of crude is, I think, under $40 a barrel, I noticed that, well, in the last couple of days I've seen the price of gas drop a little bit, but our construction contracts have not...
Labor Day weekend's coming up, it's going up, believe me.
Well, that could be true. But I haven't seen a trend in our construction contract costs starting to go down. Obviously, most of our bituminous overlay programs or projects, you know, we would hope that the cost of oil would directly translate into a lower unit cost for hot mix asphalt. So far we've seen a little decrease, but you know, we're always open to let those bid prices go lower and lower. Again, we don't control that, but we'd hope for that a little bit. That would stretch our dollars a little further. I think that we could provide documentation, I think, that says our cost of asphalt has gone up by 70% over the last 10 years.
And that's something.
So we're hoping for that trend to reverse.
Wheel leach tax was passed 2 years ago, if I remember right.
I believe that's right. Yep.
Here in Rice County, some counties are just now coming on board with the wheel leach tax.
I think I recall Steele County recently passed it, and a few more have. I think it's been an area that county boards have had to explore because, again, the revenues we receive from the state through the gas tax just weren't keeping up with the cost of inflation and the construction costs that we're forced to deal with when we have 350 miles of paved roads, 80 miles of gravel, we have 140 bridges. Costs are immense, and the need is real. So the wheelage tax was an opportunity to capture a little bit of money from the registration of vehicles. And we've used that now for a year and a half, and we dedicate all that money to the maintenance division so that they have adequate resources to go out and repair and provide timely maintenance on that 430-mile system.
But if I remember right, the wheelage tax actually doesn't, I mean, it pays for a couple miles of paved road, right?
I think the current revenue is about $500,000 a year. So we receive that, again, through the registration of most motor vehicles, not all. But $500,000 doesn't do a lot from a road construction perspective.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, right now we're still probably just shy of $1 million a mile when we do a full-blown reconstruction.
Isn't that something?
And, you know, I've heard it'd be nice if we could design a road that's cheaper. Well, I think we do what we can to keep costs down, and it's a public bidding process. If anybody has a magical way to build a road for less than $1 million a mile, we'd love to see them bid our projects. But, you know, there's a lot of cost built in to road construction. It's an expensive endeavor.
No, a lot of research continues. They're using old rubber mixed in and all kinds of stuff to try and figure out a way to make a longer lasting road.
Yeah, and I think it has to. We're just forced to keep evaluating what tools can we bring to bear to address long-term maintenance, you know, prevent those reconstruction costs.
I think I was driving on a road, maybe even this past weekend, and you could see, you know, glass,
Sure.
recycled glass
Yep.
in it too.
Yep, I think Rice County tried that maybe 15 years ago, where they took a portion of waste glass that before it was recycled properly, there was an opportunity to use that glass crushed up. It replaces a very small amount of the rock in an asphalt mixture. So what you see when you're driving down the road at night or at dusk is you see a little bit of reflection off of all of that ground glass.
Yep.
So, but, you know, efforts like that, there's still, I'm sure in the metro where the resource base is a little more concentrated, some agencies up there use ground up roof shingles as to the oil in that shingle can replace some of the asphalt that goes into the road mix. So agencies, I think, will always look for tools to lower their cost and still provide, you know, acceptable service.
But I took a glance at the 2025, is it, transportation plan that's on your website?
Okay, yeah, sure, yep.
And, you know, you think about that, that's only 10 years from now.
Well, we've adopted that plan, I think it was in '06, and we're looking at, you know, evaluating how much progress we've made addressing the priorities that were identified in that plan, and I think they're significant. But it's time maybe to review that and update it and maybe push that 2025 window out a few more years, because again, in my perspective in the county board and the administration, we're looking at the long-term planning. I mean, that's a critical component. It's not just day-to-day management of the system or maintenance, but where do we want to be 10 years from now, 15 years from now, with the corridors, the highway systems we have, the interstate access, the interchanges, how you know, that's a critical component of everyday life, economic development opportunities, mobility, transportation.
You remember the old cartoon, The Jetsons?
Yes, I do.
How they got around in the flight vehicles? You know, that's not outlandish, I don't think.
Well, I'm not sure about the individual jetpack, but I think there is research and sales are ongoing.
These drones now, and we could, you know, be manned drones.
I think if you have the wallet, you can buy a car that will convert to a plane. Your personal plane. I think they're marketing that. You just need a place to land it. But technology is evolving. You know,
So what I'm getting at is here, it's really kind of difficult to get the crystal ball out 10 years from now and see what we actually are going to need for transportation.
Well, it is quite a challenge. I think the focus probably more is on economic development opportunities around Northfield and the Faribault area. If you look at our again, our 350-mile paved system, you could find some areas in the county where it's not too convenient to go north-south, let's say, just because we don't have that system completely built out. Might be a great reason for that, like lakes in the western part of the county make it difficult to build a 10-mile straight north-south road. But economic development opportunities related to transportation are certainly a municipal and county partnership. In the rural areas of the county, we look at mobility and trying to clean up, you know, the evolution of our highway system, which started back in township roads in 1860. So,
you know, I mentioned about the pay, but you have to do some upkeep on gravel roads too. I don't want to let people think that, you know, there's no upkeep on those. You have to, you know.
Oh, absolutely, and we have, you know, we have 18 dedicated maintenance men and staff, and they're responsible for all of the entire system, and we have 4 motor graders that go out and provide blading for the gravel road system. You know, it's all part of the transportation system.
And won't be long. I probably shouldn't say this, but the snow will be flying and you'll be plowing those roads.
Well, we've already had some initial discussions about our plow routes and, you know, starting to prepare for that inevitable day, which I don't know when the crystal ball is going to bring that first heavy wet snowfall.
Didn't mean to bring it up, folks, but it is coming.
Oh, it's a reality.
It's coming.
Yep. It's Minnesota.
Do you change your routes though? I mean, they stay the same all the time, don't they?
Well, generally I'd say they stay the same, but there's always little tweaks we can make when we look at changes in our system, changes from a construction perspective. You know, for example, we have a lot of old roads that are narrow without shoulders. If those make it into our reconstruction program and we invest that approximately $1 million a mile, now we suddenly have a road that's been brought up to standards. It has right turn lanes, it has paved shoulders, where once a maintenance man could plow that by himself, now we might have to have 2 operators on it because it's so much wider. And so we tweak it every year, and it's on an ongoing basis.
Huh. Got a texted question here. It says, why all the curb and gutter, such as on Roberts Lake Boulevard? Oh, no, it went dark on me here. Let me grab it back. No ditches for snow removal and neglected catch basins are plugged, not to mention expensive stormwater pipe. Also, more shoreline is falling in Roberts Lake. Large side hill areas void of vegetation, it says.
Well, I think there's a lot of topics in that question. There is curb and gutter when we reconstructed portions of Roberts Lake near Faribault going out west. We put a lot of urban section, we call that in there. That's there's a lot of reasons to do that. One, it allows the yards and the property owners to come right up to the curb. We don't have an open ditch. There's elevation and grading issues that come with that, and drainage. But I am aware of some areas of concern by the Roberts Lake Association where there is erosion along the shoreline. The county highway in some places is 30-40 feet above that shoreline. I've had some discussions with the DNR and even our county planning and zoning department about whose responsibility is it to address shoreline erosion. It's not necessarily the highway department's, but we look at partnerships whenever we can. So I think I have some contacts information on that, and we're doing what the highway department can. I'm not sure that Roberts Lake Association has authority to go manage a shoreline. But here you go, you get a lot of government agencies kind of trying to work together to find the right solution.
Sounds like they might be in store for some of that shoreline that we did over on County Road 11.
Well, I don't think there's any, well, we evaluated the potential for the road to have an issue. We found none along Roberts Lake 11. Okay. I think the caller might be referring to, again, shoreland erosion. That's not necessarily related to the highway responsibilities of the highway department. So, you know, it's a little bit of back and forth and find out if the highway department could facilitate a project. You know, we'd certainly look at that, but I don't think we would lead the project to address shoreline erosion.
Right. The DNR would be the...
I think they'd be the primary agency that I would be addressing, trying to work with. See if it was eligible from their perspective. It may not be. I mean, that's a large lake, and there's a lot of distance there for waves to build and create erosion. So I think it's an ongoing thing. Monitoring is probably critical, and I don't know the depth of the issue there. But you know,
But that's
erosion's a natural process too. It's, you know.
Right. That's it. That's how easy it is, folks. That was a texted in excellent question, which obviously I was not aware of because I don't live on Roberts Lake.
Yep. It's amazing, the technology.
There are many times I wish I did live on Roberts Lake, but I don't. So I don't know if they'd welcome me out there or not, Roberts Lake. Anyway, you've got a map in front of you. It's got a lot of information on it. You want to share some of that with us?
Well, I wasn't sure what our topic would be, so I
Right.
just brought a potpourri of things, and I was prepared to talk about our construction program this year, if we went that way, or the future years. The map represents the county board's adopted 10-year transportation improvement plan. So this map is on our website, but it identifies, as best we can today with crystal ball, looking out what projects we're going to be working on and planning to work on up until 2024. I think, if I remember from the presentation, this is over $65 million worth of investment represented here. So a considerable amount of resources going into maintaining and improving our 430-mile county road system.
Yeah, this is 2015 to 2024, it says, and people can see this on your website.
Yep, it's loaded up there along with, I think, the blow-by-blow, year-by-year project description, a little bit more detail on that. You know, this is budget time already for the county and the cities across the state. We put together our preliminary budget for 2016. You know, right now I think we've got a ballpark estimate about $9 million of construction projects set for next year. And we're working on those. Another part of our budget also includes projects we're working on next year but won't be delivered until 2018, 2019.
Just want to put this in perspective, because you said $9 million. That sounds like a lot of money. It is a lot of money.
It is.
But, again, keep in mind that it's $1 million per mile of paved road. So we're talking 9 miles of road could be paved with $9 million out of 435 miles.
Yeah, exactly right. 9 million is a huge number for my department to deliver. But again, if you want to portray it from that perspective, it doesn't really get us where we need to be. Certainly those are not 9 miles of reconstruction we've got next year. In fact, we do have 7 miles of reconstruction, but we also have 4 bridge projects and a city reconstruction project with Northfield. But you know, that's where we get back again into the prioritization of the county's investment in the highway system. We just don't have enough money to budget every single year 1/20th of the roadway system to rebuild.
Well, and I don't know, it's hard to get your head around sometimes when we deal with this, but I just want people to realize how difficult it is for your department. I mean, and then nationwide, you know, the president saying all the time we need to improve our infrastructure in the nation. Well, everybody knows we need to improve our infrastructure.
There seems to be widespread understanding of the need.
It's no brainer there, but okay, how are we going to do this?
Yeah.
We're in debt trillions of dollars.
You know, and
nationwide.
I enjoy being an engineer. I'll let the politicians decide how we're going to resolve those, you know, competing priorities.
Yeah, you just do the best with the resources you are given, but it seems like they are somewhat inadequate, and there's really not a whole lot you can do about that. Speaking of bridges, how are we doing on, you know, since the 35W bridge went down, there was a main emphasis, and should have been, on bridges.
Well, I'm very proud of the efforts the county's made in our system. Again, the bridges within the county highway system total about 75, and then as part of Minnesota's jurisdictional issues, the counties are responsible to manage township bridges, so that adds about another 65, I think, to the list. So my department manages about 140 structures, and I think we were looking at, in the last 12 years, we've replaced, I think, over 50. So we've been very aggressive, and we continue to do that. We will probably always have, unfortunately, some bridges that are posted with weight restrictions due to their age and the style of construction back in the 50s or 40s whenever they were built. some of those structures just don't, were never designed for today's loading of 80, 90,000 pounds of heavy commercial traffic on them. So, but we're on top of that. Again, this year we have 3 bridges in our program. Next year we have 4, and we're as aggressive as we can be to stay on top of those bridges, which are critical.
Not necessarily replacing the bridge itself, right? And isn't there some instances where you put in massive culverts or something?
Absolutely. You know, from an engineering perspective, we lump all those structures together, but yeah, it's a true bridge, or many times it's concrete box culverts, parallel systems put in place, whatever's most cost effective.
And that makes more sense in many cases.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's much more cost effective. Box culverts don't come with the bridge deck that has to be maintained, and you put salt and sand on that all year long for 20 years. You have a bridge deck replacement. You have guardrails coming into that bridge deck. Those get hit. Those need maintenance. So many times box culverts are a much more cost-effective solution.
Yeah. This Roberts Lake person says the Roberts Lake hillside is a concern because the road is sitting on it.
Well, that's exactly correct, and we've evaluated that. Of course, the slide that occurred last June, July, you know, was of great concern. We had our consultant evaluate the roadway all along the top of the lake there, and their conclusion was there's no visible signs, or it doesn't appear there's any imminent failure happening. But that is something I noticed the first time I drove that road 14 years ago. It's like, it's probably not a question of if, it's just a question of when. And, you know, I think that mentality applies to a lot of things in life. You know, it's going to happen, we just don't know when. The real challenge there is, how do you effectively use your limited resources to prevent something that might happen? And that's really challenging. So, you know, I think the best effort here is you have dedicated employees watching the system. You have concerned citizens like the texter there.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and we rely on folks a lot. I mean, there's only 25 people in the entire highway department on the staff. There's 18 maintenance men. It's just not possible for my staff to see issues on the road, and people are great at calling in and letting us know their concerns.
Thanks, Dennis. I've plumb run out of time. That show just flew right by. It always does. That concludes today's edition of AM Minnesota. Jerry hosts tomorrow on KDHL AM.